My first year selling on Amazon was at times pretty discouraging. You clicked on this video because you want realistic expectations for what it actually takes to start an Amazon FBA business. And throughout the years, there have been way too many fake gurus who promise success simply to sell a mediocre course. So in this video, I'm gonna share my honest results during my first year selling on Amazon while explaining what you can do to increase your probability of succeeding with this business model. Now, obviously there aren't guarantees for success, but after dedicating most of my waking hours to this business model for the past 5 years and scaling my brands to multiple 7 figures, I've gathered enough reference points to where I can launch new products with confidence that it's going to be a successful product. Whereas when I was a beginner, and I'm sure you feel this way too, it can be really scary investing time and money into your first product, especially with the uncertainty of succeeding. So let's dive into it. My first product was a money gun. And at the time, I relied on Jungle Scout for my product research, and I felt pretty confident about my product choice due to its solid demand and relatively low competition in the market. I also thought there was room for better branding. And while I didn't focus too much on differentiating the product from others, like I said, I invested more into branding and improved packaging to enhance the overall presentation of the money gun. So I hired a designer on Fiverr for probably less than $300 to create the package design, the logos, etc. If I remember correctly, I used gold and white as my primary colors and branded it as Cash King. And it stood out a lot more amongst the other sellers who just had generic branding. So my main goal was to test the waters, get everything set up, and hopefully start seeing some sales roll in. But unfortunately, things did not go as planned. Before the inventory purchase, I had to start by reaching out to manufacturers. And since I wasn't yet experienced with sourcing products, this was a pretty big learning curve for me at the time. So I spent some time searching for reliable manufacturers and negotiating pricing. I reached out to around 20 suppliers on Alibaba. Choosing the right supplier wasn't easy. There were several factors to consider, like pricing, minimum order quantity, and communication. And after comparing a few options, I finally decided on one that seemed to meet all my needs and sent them $6,000 for my initial inventory investment. The main reason I went with this supplier was not only on price, but largely on communication. The response time was great and they understood what I wanted. I also ordered samples from my top 2 suppliers and felt that theirs was the best quality. And so once I agreed on terms with the manufacturer, I placed the order, confident that I had taken all the right steps, but unfortunately, I overlooked a critical part of the process. After placing my inventory order, I discovered that the product was restricted due to the fake cash that it dispensed. This was a classic rookie mistake that could have been easily avoided. If I had simply created my product listing before actually purchasing inventory, or let alone spending all my time communicating with potential suppliers, I would have known about the restriction ahead of time. Now, in my defense, I didn't think about doing this because there were tons of other listings on Amazon selling the same product with fake cash. So it was incredibly frustrating to see so many other sellers successfully offering the same product while I was left unable to sell mine. Now, if you're a new Amazon seller, always make sure you create a mock-up listing before you buy inventory, even if you see other people selling that product. That way you can find out if Amazon will allow you to sell that specific product. And so at this point, I'm down $6,000, so I reached out to my supplier to request a refund. And usually suppliers do not give refunds unless you can prove they sent you a faulty product. But once they ship the products, the ball's in your court. One thing about me is I'm very consistent. And after weeks of back and forth of communication, they agreed to give me a 30% refund, likely because they knew they could resell the inventory to someone else since the products were untouched and still brand new. And my biggest takeaway from that experience was that everything is negotiable. It's extremely rare that a supplier would give a refund since this was completely my fault. So make sure you understand that you can pretty well negotiate anything with proper logic and persistence. Now, even with that partial refund, I felt a lot of pressure because many people around me were questioning my decision to enter this business. And in many ways, they had valid concerns. But despite the doubts, I was determined to keep pushing forward. And the reality was that no matter how many times I failed, I would continue on because the alternative of working a 9-to-5 was a big enough motivator for me to keep going. And the more the people around me doubted me, the more of a fire it actually built up in me to continue on. Living at home added a lot of stress since my family didn't really understand or believe in what I was doing, so I couldn't really talk to anyone about the business. But one of my friends learned about my attempt at selling on Amazon and my failure. Still, he was intrigued by the idea of e-commerce, and we decided to collaborate on launching a new product together. And if you're wondering at this point why I would try this business model again after losing so much money the first time, well, it's because of how scalable and easy it can be to operate once it's done correctly. So I knew that if I could crack the code, I'd be living my dream lifestyle, which fortunately is what I'm living right now. My brands produce multiple seven figures a year, and I only have to work a few hours per day checking up on my team and the progress of our product sales. But back to the story. For our new product, we decided to sell a collapsible metal straw, and we made a point to differentiate ourselves by enhancing the packaging quality. And in a competitive market like Amazon, how you present your product makes a huge difference in attracting customers. So similarly to the Money Gun, our big focus to stand out was premium branding. So we hired the same package designer from Fiverr as the previous product. Our branding at the time was executed extremely well, and it was pretty clear we had a premium feel compared to every other seller in that market. And even though we were really excited to launch this product, it took us around 4 to 5 months before we finally shipped our inventory to an Amazon warehouse. But again, Amazon was giving us trouble. For some reason, it took about 30 days to actually list our inventory as in stock. Still unsure why this happened, but just know that as a new seller, delays like this aren't super uncommon. Now from this point, it seemed like all our hard work was finally paying off. Our sales were consistent from day one, and we made it to the first page for our keyword after the first month. But unfortunately, we didn't really pay as close attention to the numbers as we should have, only profiting around 12%, not even including PPC costs. So basically, we were actually losing a bit of money every time we sold the unit. And in total, I probably lost about another $1,000 from that product. So now I'm gonna share some good news about this product. But first, to add to the bad news, my parents made me go back to school because they didn't really have much confidence in this business model, which was fair enough. And I didn't want to, but since I was living with them, felt like I didn't really have much of a choice. Finally, I do have some good news though. Not only did this product reinforce me that I could figure out this Amazon game if I just paid a bit more attention to my numbers, but I felt pretty confident that I could at the very least offer product research as a service on Fiverr. And this way I was saving up some cash while continuing to involve myself in Amazon FBA. So when I had enough money, I could go ahead and launch a third. Now, long story short, a few people I met through Fiverr reached out and asked if I could join their team to help launch their next product. They paid for most of the upfront investment, and I was really only responsible for the daily operations. So after overcoming some roadblocks, finally, this was my first profitable Amazon product and allowed me to finally move out of my parents' house into a pretty nice apartment downtown. And I explain in more detail about this in one of my previous videos, so I'll share the link at the end of this video so you can learn more about how that went. But now let's get to some of the lessons I learned from my first year of selling on Amazon and being unprofitable with my first two products. The first one being, it is crucial to have a solid understanding of Amazon's policies, restrictions, and common practices. For my Money Gun product, I learned that Amazon is more lenient to sellers that are already making them money, which is why as a complete beginner, they didn't even let me list the product. Yet there were plenty of other established sellers profiting off the same exact product. Also, like all businesses, starting an Amazon FBA business requires an upfront investment. My $6,000 loss stemmed from mainly the initial inventory, but there's also other expenses like the time I put into it. And I probably spent 2 to 3 hours every day for about 2 to 3 months getting this set up, all to lose thousands of dollars, which I could have earned from a job. But luckily for me, I was willing to spend my time and money since I was pretty young and hungry for success. But if you're someone who doesn't want to spend their first year investing time and money into failed products, I highly recommend working with someone who already has experience. Because free YouTube videos just like this, they can definitely be very helpful, but you have to keep in mind there's always going to be shifts in market trends or more technical advertising strategies that aren't going to be shared publicly online for the sake of protecting the sales momentum of their own products or their clients' products. So if you do decide on bootstrapping this on your own, I personally would try and set aside about $5,000 US at the minimum for your first product launch, although the more you have, the better. And by the way, that goes for everything from inventory, branding, photos, and PPC, which is Amazon's internal advertising system. Within that are some more miscellaneous costs like setting up your business, your seller account, and potentially getting a trademark. Unless you have help from someone who knows what they're doing, you have to be realistic and accept it might take a few losses before you land your winning product that generates you profit on autopilot thanks to Amazon's massive existing customer base and organic search system. Even though in this video I discussed a lot of the negative aspects of starting an Amazon business, you have to keep in mind that this opportunity and business model is extremely unique and lucrative if done correctly. There are very few business models, if any, where you can launch and manage multiple products with relatively low labor costs in a systemized way with consistent sales by leveraging Amazon's existing customers. You don't have to worry about Facebook shutting down your ad account or hiring an expensive agency that requires your attention constantly for new creatives and discounts. You also don't have to worry about losing customers because they don't trust your website or brand. Let's face it, a lot of brands, especially drop shippers, are spending money on Facebook ads or TikTok ads just for those people to actually check out their website and look up the exact same product on Amazon because they trust Amazon's reputation. Now, if you want to work directly with me or take my free Amazon course, the links are in the description. And like I promised earlier, check out this video to learn how I succeeded with my next few products after I failed with my first two.